After revisiting the Europhoenix Class 37, I had the idea to update another one of my older reviews from April 2023, and this too was focused on gameplay packs. The so-called New Journeys expansion pack, whatever that name's supposed to mean, was first released in February 2022, and it was just a trio of payware reskins for the 3 default routes in the Train Sim World 2 package, namely Sandpatch Grade, Schnellfahrstrecke Koln to Aachen, and the London Underground Bakerloo Line. I stupidly bought all 3 packs when they were first released, but you can now buy them individually if you don't want all 3. The versions that are compatible with Train Sim World 4 cost $6 New Zealand dollars each, and for reference, that's the full price as it appears on Steam. The first part of New Journeys is a vintage silver with red doors livery for the London Underground 1972 tube stock. In my opinion, this thing is a bit of a joke because Dovetail didn't bother changing the interior to match the old livery, so it's effectively a modern day heritage unit, although in real life, TfL don't actually have any tube trains painted as heritage units. There is a mod on the TrainSim community website that fixes the inaccurate textures, but it has never been made compatible with TSW4. The Silver 72 comes with 3 scenarios for the Bakerloo Line, which depict empty stock moves and a fictional rail tour, but the unit also layers into timetable mode. As one might expect, the sounds and physics on its heritage livery haven't changed from the default unit that comes with the route. When you go to pick a timetable mode service, you can choose to drive the 1972 stock in either the Heritage livery or the modern London Underground livery. Apart from a 4-car variant that represents the film prop that used to be stabled on the Aldwych branch, the silver unit doesn't add any additional services to the Bakerloo line. And if you spawn at a station on foot, you'll just see the 1972 stock in her modern image livery most, if not all, of the time. This calls the necessity of the Silver 72 into question. Next up is the EMD SD40 diesel locomotive in the CSX Stealth livery. I don't really understand the point of this one, given that she isn't properly equipped for mainline running in the 21st century, as indicated by the lack of ditch lights. Not to mention the livery itself being out of date for the time period that Sandpatch Grade is set in, and while CSX does have an official heritage unit program these days, none of the repainted GEVOs are in the Stealth livery. Instead, they're all painted in the liveries from Fallen Flag railroads, but their look is ruined by the cabs still being in CSX colours. Norfolk Southern did their heritage units much better. Just saying. I recently made some reskins for Rolling Line that depict the CSX heritage units in my preferred style, with full heritage liveries instead of the cabs being left in CSX colours. And now we go back to discussing the Stealth SD40. To be brutally honest, I think the CSX Stealth SD40 is one of the laziest add-ons DTG have ever made for Train Sim World. All they did was take the existing SD40 model from the Clinchfield Railroad add-on and repaint it in this early CSX livery. Whether this was intentional or not, Dovetail made that fact even more obvious by not bothering to change the numbers. You can see that they're still in the original Clinchfield range and font, When the ex-Clinchfield SD40s were inherited by CSX, around 1982 I think, they didn't retain their original numbers. Instead, they were renumbered in the 8335 to 8358 range. And speaking of the Clinchfield Railroad, I do have a review of that route in my video queue, and although I don't know when it will be released, I do know that it won't be until after I come back from Melbourne, Australia. Sadly, or rather unsurprisingly, Dovetail didn't really learn from their mistakes on the Stealth SD40 when they made the ATSF Warbonnet F7 and BNSF SD70 ACE gameplay packs for Cajon Pass. I refused to buy either of those add-ons because A. the devs didn't bother including any heritage coaches or wagons with the F7s, and B. they gave the SD70 ACE numbers in the Thundercab range, despite the fact that the Thundercabs are banned from leading trains in real life. I pity the American TSW players, especially when they have to deal with that sort of lazy rubbish that disrespects the source material, and by extension the customer, to no end. The SD40 reskin comes with a trio of scenarios for Sandpatch grade, but no additional timetable mode services. Instead, she is just a substitute for the default GP38-2, SD40-2, and AC4400 CW in timetable mode. There is a mod on the Train Sim community websites that significantly improved the Stealth SD40. But, like the silver 1972 stock's texture patch, it has never been made compatible with TSW4. The only thing I like about this locomotive is the sound of her horn, which is a damn sight better than the awful default horn sound that Dovetail used on the other CSX locomotives, as I'll demonstrate with the C40-8W. Lastly, we come to the S-Bahn Koln BR423, and this part of the New Journeys expansion pack also comes with an overhauled timetable for Schnellfahrstrecke Koln to Aachen. This is a more realistic alternative to the original Koln to Aachen timetable, which had an S-Bahn layer that used the BR422 from Rhine-Ruhr-Osten. In this overhauled timetable, the BR423 has 194 playable services, while the route itself feels an awful lot busier than it used to, especially if you had no layers active, in which case you would have only seen the BR406 ICE 3M and BR442 Talent 2 EMUs on this route. In addition to the normal S12 and S19 services that only go as far west as Horem, Sindorf or Düren, there's also an unusual empty stock move from Düren to Aachen that starts at 8:22 PM, followed by an eastbound S19 passenger service out of Aachen early the next morning. Weirdly, the evening ECS move to Aachen is held in the platform at Düren for 18 minutes after the service starts before you can finally proceed. Whenever I tried spawning at a station on foot, the game loaded the original timetable with BR422s layered onto the S-Bahn services, despite the fact that I had selected the New Journeys timetable back in the main menu. The game would only load the actual new timetable if I selected a service and spawned in as a driver, and I had to get out of the train and wait a minute or two for the game to ask me if I wanted to give up control of the service. Only then could I do a normal round of standing trackside. I found this rather annoying because it made the process of recording footage for this review more tedious than I was expecting. While I do like driving the BR423 on these high-density commuter services, there is an elephant in the room. To make this pack, Dovetail just reused the existing BR423 from the München to Augsburg route, only changing the exterior decals to suit the Koln region. While some BR423 units do run S-Bahn Koln services in real life, those ones do not have the same refurbished interior as the München units. although I wasn't aware of this fact when I first bought New Journeys. I'm disappointed in Dovetail for not bothering to backdate the BR423's interior for the Koln version, not to mention the lazy Stealth SD40, but it is what it is. And at least the BR423 still has good motor sounds. Overall, I think the New Journeys expansion pack in Train Sim World is borderline pointless, especially where the CSX Stealth SD40 and a silver 1972 tube stock are concerned. The only part of the trio that I can recommend is the S-Bahn Koln BR423, even if only for the upgraded timetable on the Koln to Aachen route. Some people may think I'm just rehashing/remaking old videos because I'm creatively bankrupt and desperate for more views, but that couldn't be further from the truth, and I do not make these videos for attention. I still think it's important to revisit these add-ons as a way to remind people of just how lazy Dovetail Games' products can be. If you want a TSW add-on made by Dovetail themselves that's actually good, I recommend the Southeastern High Speed route, along with the Euro Phoenix Class 37/7 and Class 700 EMU to boot.